Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Vacuum Exposition. I, of course, am Carl, and we are back with another fantastic episode. Now, we've got a special treat for you today. I call this another one of my Vacuums Rescued videos because it does involve a couple of semi-recent acquisitions from a friend of mine, but we'll get into that in a little bit. For those of you that tuned in last week to the video I did on the commercial celebrity, thank you all for watching. It was a whole lot of fun. I am planning on going back to that vacuum shop that I took a video of actually this coming Friday. So I'm going to go back and take a look at a few things and see if I can snag a couple of them that I really wanted to bring back with me. So we'll take a look at that as that comes. But thank you all for all tuning in, and for those that did ask about it. I'm still kind of responding to some of the messages from people asking about certain things, if they're available and whatnot. But either way, that was a really fun video to do. And if you haven't gotten a chance to check it out, go back for sure and go watch that video, because it was a lot of work. It's one of my little longer videos that I've done in a while, but either way, it was a whole lot of fun and a whole lot of work, but it was awesome. So plus, you know, you just don't ever get a chance to see that kind of stuff anymore. So for the rest of November, we are just going to be kind of doing some assortment of machines, and then in December, that was when I moved the December scheduling. So we'll look at some sets of machines if all goes according to the plan. But anyways, let's get on to our video for today and take a look at another really cool one. All right, everybody, so we've got a couple new acquisitions here. So the first one being the actual topic of our vacuum exposition today, which would be this beautiful, about late 90s Tristar model A101G. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment, but we also have this beautiful little Hoover Tempo 250 from the 90s. Now, these would have been sold all over the place, any hardware store, big box store, catalog ordering, a lot of different places. This essentially was Hoover's answer to the Eureka Mighty Mite, as well as the replacement for the very popular Hoover Porta-Power, which could or could not have wheels. So this having some wheels, you know, I've seen some other variants of it. There was also the Hoover Hornet, which was kind of similar to this, that I don't believe had a tool pack on the back, but this one does have one, and it is 100% complete. A very nice looking little example. I know that they had other canisters and uprights that match that kind of maroon color, but this has the original hose, extension wands, floor tool, as well as the dusting brush, crevice tool, and upholstery tool. So we'll probably look at that next week. So if you are a big fan of the Tempo, definitely stay tuned. We'll take a look at that then. But anyways, we have another machine to focus on today, this Tristar. So let's take a look at that. All right, everybody. So we have an interesting one to take a look at today. Now, what we're looking at, as I previously mentioned, is about a 1999 or 2000 Tristar model A101G. Now, I do know that there was some other associated models, the A101S, and A101E, I believe, but this was the Model G, as I'm sure that G notation essentially means whatever trim package this would have had. The G marked it that this had a hammer tone, painted hooded power nozzle, as well as matching painted canister. I believe other variants had the top that was actually black, and this power nozzle was all black. Maybe that was the S, I'm not 100% sure. But this machine is very cool. Mitchell found this semi-recently. It was given to him at a vacuum shop, and because unfortunately they weren't able to sell it, so they let him have it, and he had no interest in it, so he asked me if I wanted it. So I, of course, said yes, because this was essentially the very last of this particular design from Tristar. Now, Tristar does still make vacuum cleaners. In fact, that I have seen a few of their newer renditions, and they're quite a bit different than what we're looking at here, but still kind of use the basic design makeup of it. However, they don't have this type of styling. Now, if you've been around on my channel for a while, you've probably seen several interstate engineering compact machines, I had the Sunstorm on here, the Japanese marketed compact. It was a little bit more boxy than the average compact machine. But they all had this type of design. And when I mean this type of design, I mean this almost swooped back design that some people have called the pig. But this particular design, what that means is they had these roller balls on the front. So we're going to start from the bottom up. So they had these roller balls on the front to be able to steer, and then two stationary wheels in the back that would kind of help direct it around. The whole machine would split right in half at this bumper line, so you could access the motor and everything for servicing and whatnot. But they all had a big rubber or vinyl bumper around it. Then the top of the machine, we had this big shell right here, and then you had a filter towards the very back. So right here would be your filter for the machine. So we'll just quickly pop that up. There we are, there's our filter. And interestingly enough, we can also see that this was originally sold at Central Coast Vacuum in Sutherland, Oregon. So very interesting to see something like that in here. But we do have the standard power switch right here on the back of the machine. For a lot of these, the way that they would have the cord wrap around is you'd have kind of a hook, or say you just hook it underneath where the hose goes on, and then the power button was actually the cord hook as well, so you'd step on that. They did away with that. This was actually the first design after they did away with that feature. But then they went to kind of a standard, what I like to call a toolbox type handle here on the back. They did have one that was mounted middle lengthwise of the machine, so you carried it like this instead of like this. So that is a big difference for these machines. But this was quite a bit more technologically advanced in the way of compact or Tristar machines. They did have a lot of the same features, but they were updated and thus made a little bit more relevant for canisters, of course, taking newer style bags. Now, typical Tristar build up top here. I'll take the hose off so we can see better, but this is the latch that you would open the top with. So you just pop that up, and there is your bag. Now, it has been used, obviously, so that there is some particulates in the bag currently, but that's okay. We do have some more bags for it as well, so we'll change that out. But that is the basicness of the machine. Now, the hose is actually very rainbow reminiscent, but it does have the two prongs to power on the power nozzle. So it just goes in there. There's two little eject buttons on each side here. And then you have a very rainbow-esque hose. Now we do have a powered hose as well. So we're going to have a on-off switch for the power nozzle right here. And I believe this is a suction diverter right there, so that in case you have something stuck in there, you can relieve the suction with this little switch right here. Now, on a lot of older vacuums, when they had a relief switch on the hose, it would be quite a bit bigger, so that's pretty small, relatively speaking. But that is the powered handle for this machine. Now, of course, we have the large plastic extension ones that go down to the power nozzle right here. The power nozzle, which is Tristar's own design, very, very nice machine, very reminiscent of something like Electrolux. They either PN4 and different things like that. Had kind of this L shape, made it a little bit easier to get around furniture and things like that. But either way, you did have a reset button in case something did happen with the motor and you needed to reset it in case that it was stuck or off or something like that. But other than that, pretty simple. I mean, very nice brush roll on this one. No complaints about that. Just looking at it right here on the bottom of the power nozzle, it has a model number which looks very much like a year. So I'm gonna have to revise this. But it looks like this was actually made in 96. So this Tristar is actually a 1996 model A101G. So interesting. I didn't know that. It's kind of hard to get historical information on some of these late 90s, early 2000s machines. Now, Tristar was a premium brand machine, so you could only get it at like vacuum shops. I don't believe that they were selling these door to door anymore, but either way, you had to go someplace specific for vacuums. You couldn't just get it at a Walmart or Target, anything like that. So This machine is pretty exclusive. When they came out, they were quite expensive. I want to say this was like a $700 or $800 machine when it first came out. So to have one now, you know, obviously depreciation is what it is. And this one has ran into, you know, a few pieces of furniture and walls, but you know, it's kind of sad to see that that they kind of have fallen in value so much. But that's just kind of what happens when these machines age after a while. They become kind of outmoded. Now, that doesn't mean that this machine wasn't highly regarded and touted as their top of the line when it came out. I did manage to go on a website, I believe it was Tristar's original website, and found kind of an ad for it. It's not easy to find ads for these. Really the only printed documents that have, you know, a picture of something like this on it is like the pack of bags that go with it. So, but I'll show that website page that does have the picture of this machine right here. Now, the late 90s, early 2000s, of course, we have Y2K going on, so there was a civil unrest because of that occurrence coming up. 1996 was actually the year that my brother was born, so that was kind of an important year for my family. But I can honestly say we weren't looking at vacuum cleaners that year. We were pretty happy with our Amway ClearTrack at the time, of course. So, but these machines would have been a big deal to vacuum shops. Now, the common problem with canisters is that they're not uprights. And, you know, if you know, you know, but I have been a collector of both uprights and canisters, and I could definitely see why somebody would want a canister, and I can see why they would not want a canister. As I talked about with that commercial Hoover last week, you know, they generally speaking didn't sell very well because in a commercial setting, you didn't really want a canister that kind of, you know, followed behind you and bumped into things. Same kind of deal with this machine. Now, while it did provide a lot of suction and did very well, and of course, you know, were highly valued pieces of machinery, unfortunately, when it came to, you know, if somebody wanted this versus a higher end upright that had all the tools and attachments and removable hose that something like this could do no problem, they were going to go with the upright because it just generally speaking was easier. You know, you can upright without having to worry about something banging against the walls and everything behind you as you walk. But I guess in the way that, you know, something is lightweight like a canister, you can just plant that canister on the ground or have it follow behind you rather than, you know, having to lug and push a big heavy upright. So there's two sides of the coin. It really just kind of depends on what you preferred, but generally speaking, I don't see a whole lot of these canisters anymore because of that. You know, they were very nice and very very highly regarded machines, but unfortunately they just weren't, you know, they weren't as desirable as something, you know, that you could easily get for cheap at a big box store, or if you wanted a higher end vacuum cleaner and you wanted an upright, you could get something like a Riccar or a Royal or even a Kirby that you didn't have to worry about touting around, you know, something to drag behind you. But either way, this was a very, very nice machine when it came out, and chances are the previous owners who bestowed it upon the vacuum shop were very, very proud of it. So it's kind of sad that it met a fate where it was basically given away, but, you know, I'm happy to have it in my collection. Of course, it'll go with all my other compacts and everything, and be in the lineup. So, but without further ado, let's get on to our rundown and see how the old TriStar does on the floor. All right, everybody. So we have the old Tristar A101G ready to go and plugged in. So let's get this thing turned on and see how she does on the carpet. And there you have it, folks. This beautiful Tristar model A101G from 1996 did a fantastic job on the floor. I mean, why wouldn't it? It's from the 90s, and 90s machines were still of a pretty good quality, enough to groom the floor without any issues. So very, very happy with this and the performance that it did. Of course, it doesn't surprise me because Tristars have always been pretty decent quality. So, but I hope you all enjoyed our little run demo for today. Well, everybody, we've come to the end of another one here in the Constellation Carl vacuum collection. This has been a really, really fun one to do. It's kind of been on my mind for a while. Me and Mitchell kind of worked on the deal with this one a while ago now, and I'm glad that it finally came to fruition and that I was able to show you guys this. And you know what? I think I might keep it around for a little bit before putting it back into the collection and everything, because man, this was pretty fun to use actually. So I mean, it did capture a good amount of pine needles, and boy oh boy do we have a lot of them here in Washington. So but either way, this was a really fun one. One thing I didn't get a chance to note, mostly because I didn't even know it until I was wrapping the cord. Now the cord wraps around down here on the bottom. It's got this revolving half disc thing that you can even put in, kind of rotated so that the cord comes off easier, and then this has this little foot here for the rest of the cord to wrap around. Very, very interesting. You can kind of see those two stationary wheels back here. But one thing that I noticed was that there was these points here on the front of the machine. It actually makes it so you can wrap that cord a lot easier and stow the machine in your closet on those flat areas like so. So makes it easier, even turns the latch here into kind of a third foot. So very, very interesting. Still learning stuff about this machine, but it was really, really fun to get this one and get it out and show you guys. I love showing you guys weird and wacky things that have come out between now and, well, over 100 years of vacuum cleaners. This being one of them. I know it's not the most interesting of the compact TriStar type machines, being one of the kind of the last of this era of machine, but hey, it's part of that history. It goes into it. You know, at some point I want to have a lineup of each model, but we'll get there eventually in due time. But either way, I hope you guys all enjoyed our little video today. Next weekend, like I said, I'm going to go take a look at that vacuum shop again. Hopefully come back with a couple things that I eyed the last time I was in there. But either way, you guys all have a great rest of your weekend, as well as a fantastic next week. And we'll catch you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, y'all.